It was a grand wedding at a luxurious venue in the heart of Lagos. Guests filled the hall, witnessing the union of a prominent businessman, Adebayo, and his beautiful bride, Adora. The ceremony was flawless, and no one could have guessed that the night would take an unexpected turn. The celebration continued well into the night, but by morning, Adora had vanished without a trace. There were no signs of forced entry, and the hotel suite remained untouched, except for a cryptic message on the vanity mirror. The search began. The cryptic message left behind was simple yet chilling: the truth lies beneath the surface. Detective Colonel Connell was called in, but even he was baffled by the message's meaning. Adora's disappearance didn't just seem random, it felt deliberate. Her belongings were undisturbed, and there were no signs of a struggle. The only clue was the mirror, smeared with lipstick. Connell's instincts told him that this was no ordinary case. Whoever took Adora knew exactly what they were doing. As Connell began to investigate the Connell family, he discovered whispers of a long-buried secret. Adebayo's family had a history of unusual disappearances, dating back to the 1980s. It was a time of political unrest in Nigeria, and many of the family's business rivals had mysteriously disappeared. Could Adora's disappearance be tied to these old events? The deeper Connell dug, the more questions arose. He couldn't shake the feeling that Adora's vanishing was somehow connected to these unresolved mysteries from the past. Adebayo had mentioned a strange guest at the wedding, a woman he hadn't recognized, who seemed to be watching the couple from a distance. She had left the reception early, and no one knew where she went. Connell took this lead seriously and interviewed the wedding staff, uncovering a guest list with a few suspicious names. Among them was a woman named Zainab, who had once been close to Adebayo's late father. Could she hold the key to Adora's disappearance? Connell tracked down Zainab, but she was reluctant to speak about the past. When pressed, she admitted to knowing Adebayo's father, but she claimed to have severed all ties with the family after a tragic incident decades ago. Zainab's reluctance only deepened the mystery surrounding Adora's vanishing. Why was she so adamant about staying away from the Connell family? Connell couldn't help but wonder if she knew more than she was willing to admit. Adebayo, in a state of shock, handed over a private journal that had belonged to his late father, stating that it was the only thing he had left of him. The journal was filled with cryptic entries, with references to strange meetings, secretive transactions, and mentions of a missing woman who had disappeared around the same time as a violent family dispute. As Connell read through the journal, a chilling realization dawned upon him. Could the woman in the journal be the key to understanding Adora's disappearance? The journal alluded to a secret affair between Adebayo's father and a woman named Kechi, who had been involved in the family business. The affair had been kept hidden from the public eye, but as Connell dug deeper, he found unsettling evidence that Kechi had mysteriously disappeared during a business trip to Europe. Her sudden disappearance had never been fully investigated. Could Adora be connected to Kechi, or was she the latest victim in a long line of women tied to the Connell family's dark secrets? Connell uncovered an old family portrait in the Connell family estate that raised more questions than answers. Adebayo's father, standing proudly with his wife and children, was flanked by a woman who didn't seem to belong. The woman's face had been scratched out as if deliberately erased from history. The discovery left Connell unsettled. Who was this woman, and why had she been removed from the family's narrative? The more Connell learned, the more it seemed that Adora's disappearance was connected to this forgotten figure. Adebayo's business dealings seemed to be riddled with debts and unfinished transactions. Connell stumbled upon a series of financial records showing large sums of money being transferred to an unknown account. The payments had been made under the guise of a business agreement, but there were no details about the recipient. Could this financial trail lead to the person behind Adora's disappearance? Connell was certain now that someone was using Adebayo's wealth and power to orchestrate a complex plot to unravel the Kola family. In the basement of the Kola family estate, Connell discovered a hidden tunnel. The entrance was concealed behind a set of old shelves, and its existence had been forgotten for decades. The tunnel seemed to lead to a secret room, one that had been locked away for years. As Connell entered the room, he was met with a horrifying sight, remnants of an old ritual, with symbols painted on the walls. The deeper Connell ventured, the more he realized that the Kola family's legacy was darker than he could have ever imagined. Adebayo, visibly shaken, confessed to Connell that he had betrayed his father by distancing himself from the family's legacy. He had tried to build a new life with Adora, but he was still haunted by the decisions of his past. He had never wanted to acknowledge the family's dark secrets, but now it seemed inevitable. Adebayo's guilt seemed to have fueled his desperation, but what had driven him to such lengths? Was he being targeted for his father's sins, or was there something more to the story? Connell began to believe that the Kola family was cursed. Every generation seemed to be marked by betrayal, loss, and mysterious disappearances. From Adebayo's father to the present, the family has been plagued by tragedy. Could Adora's disappearance be the final chapter in a long-running curse, one that had been set in motion decades ago? As Connell began to piece the puzzle together, it became clear that the answer was closer than he thought. Just as Connell thought he had reached the end of the trail, a woman arrived at the Kola family estate. It was Nkechi, the woman whose disappearance had haunted the family for years. She was alive, but she was not the same person who had left all those years ago. Her appearance sent shockwaves through the family, and she revealed secrets that no one was prepared for. Nkechi claimed to know where Adora was and why she had been taken. But was she telling the truth, or was she part of a larger conspiracy? Among Nkechi's belongings was a letter written by Adebayo's father just before his death. The letter was filled with cryptic warnings about the dangers that lay ahead for the Kola family. It spoke of a reckoning that would come, one that would force the family to face the sins of the past. As Connell read the letter, he realized that the family's tragic history was far from over. The letter contained a clue that might lead them to Adora, but it was written in code. The code in the letter baffled Connell, but he was determined to decipher it. With the help of Zainab, who reluctantly agreed to assist him, they began the long process of cracking the code. It wasn't just a simple cipher, it was a series of symbols and numbers related to locations and events from the past. As they worked together, they uncovered a map of hidden locations within Lagos, places that held the key to uncovering Adora's whereabouts. Following the clues, Connell discovered an abandoned vault beneath the city. The vault had been forgotten for years, its contents locked away from prying eyes. Inside, they found evidence of illegal deals, family secrets, and a collection of items that belonged to Adora. But the vault also held something far more sinister, a hidden chamber filled with remnants of a dark ritual. Could this ritual have been the reason for Adora's disappearance? And what was its connection to the Kola family's ancient history? The ritual that had been performed in the vault was unlike anything Connell had ever seen. It was a series of blood sacrifices meant to ensure the family's prosperity. As Connell pieced together the details, he discovered that Adora had unknowingly become part of this ritual. Her bloodline, it turned out, was intertwined with the family's cursed past. She was the key to breaking the cycle of death and disappearance. But how could Connell save her when the ritual had already begun? Connell confronted Adebayo with the truth. Adora had been taken to complete the ritual that had been set in motion decades ago. The Kola family was not just rich, they were powerful, using dark forces to maintain their wealth and influence. Adebayo's guilt and desperation had driven him to the edge. He had to make a choice, continue the cycle of sacrifice or break free from his family's dark legacy. But time was running out, and Adora's life hung in the balance. In a last-ditch effort to save Adora, Colonel and Adebayo raced against time to find her before it was too late. They tracked her to a remote location, hidden deep in the heart of Lagos. But when they arrived, they were met with a shocking twist. Adora wasn't alone, she had been waiting for them. She had known about the family's dark secrets all along and had been playing her own game. Now, with the truth revealed, the fate of the Connell family was in her hands. Adora's disappearance had been a carefully orchestrated plan to expose the Connell family's dark secrets. With her help, the curse that had plagued the family for generations was finally broken. Adebayo was left to pick up the pieces of his shattered world, but he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As for Adora, she vanished once more, leaving behind a legacy of truth, betrayal, and a family forever changed. The missing bride had returned, but only as a shadow of the past.